Hey everybody, it's Eric with What's in the Box, and we are continuing the Texas Horror Lit Fest author interviews. And today we have Stephen Scott joining us. How's it going?
Pretty good. Been a busy day, but glad to be here.
Yeah, it has been a busy day. My mom was in town, and she's from Kentucky, so I had to fly her home. So it was a quick turn for me, but it was nice to spend a week with her and then get to send her home.
Yeah.
Um,
I lived in Kentucky for 4 years. I consider it my second home.
oh yeah, where'd you
Yeah.
live in? What part?
Well, Central Kentucky near Lexington, a little tiny town called Wilmore. It's where I went
Sweet,
to seminary. Yeah.
very cool. That's awesome. That is a beautiful state. I always love
It
going
is.
there. So usually drive through it once or twice a year, going somewhere to some of these events. So it's always an excuse to swing in and check on my mom and then if I can bring her home to Texas so that she can hang out with the family and see everybody and all that good stuff. But she's not big for car rides, so we're not going to drive back, so we fly home.
That's a good idea.
So the question, like I always say, the one that everybody's going to judge you on, Freddie, Jason, or Michael.
Michael.
All right. No hesitation, just right in there.
Right.
Um, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, the original is my all-time favorite.
The kind
In
of the
fact,
one that got it all started?
it's my number one and all-time favorite horror movies.
Very cool. Yeah, no, the idea of Michael's really good. Um,
Yes.
and and it was a breath of fresh air in the horror world at that point because I think at that if you go back and you really look at it, it was a lot of campy stuff. I mean, it's all stuff I love and the things that I celebrate, but I think horror was having an identity crisis. Other than we had that weird little pocket of like adult contemporary horror, or The Exorcist and
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby, and it was almost like Oscar worthy horror, which we might, we could argue we're back into,
Yeah.
today, um, but traditional, fun, scary, creep you out B movie kind of horror was just considered nothing. And I think Halloween really restarted all that and allowed creators to get a little darker and go a little deeper on those and kind of give us a rebirth of the horror genre for the 80s. So,
What I loved was the suspense. It
right?
was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, some of the choices Carpenter makes is just it's like genius, just the way, and of course that's why everybody loves it so much. But I mean, just the way he did it, the way he handled every situation, some of the longer pauses and then some of the quicker cuts and just everything he did. It's like it was, it's of course, I mean, he's a great director. He's one of my favorite directors. My favorite film
Mhm.
is The Thing. So, I mean, I love him. But yeah, I think Halloween's pretty fun. What's funny though, for me, I always enjoy watching the second one a little bit more with the Michael stuff. And
That was
I don't know why.
Oh, well, it's the best of the sequels, I will say that.
Yeah, it's a great sequel for sure. And I like the way that they did it. Although I'm also a fan of three. What's your thoughts on three?
I call it a high no, Halloween in name only.
Yeah, right. Which is kind of what it
Yeah.
is. I mean, I
And
know
I
Car. Oh, keep going.
I just didn't like the plot. It didn't sound like something scary. It sounded like something out of a James Bond movie. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
Roger Cochran wanted to do, whatever his name was.
That is true. That is kind of funny. Yeah, he is kind of like one of those old school villains. The only thing missing was a cat. Now he's not stroking like a naked cat. We got some Doctor Evil stuff going on, but yeah, that is funny. Um, and I think if you would have knocked Halloween off the title, if it was just Season of the Witch, I think people would love it. Halloween
Maybe.
fans would celebrate a little bit more. Because I know a lot of people that don't like Michael Myers but love Season of the Witches, and then vice versa. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I get that. What's your take on the reboot with Zombie?
With Zombie? Oh, you
Rob
mean Rob
Zombie.
Zombie?
Yeah, his
Yeah.
reboot.
I didn't like it. Initially, I kind of did, but on a repeated viewing, it just he makes it too. I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie.
I get
Uh,
that.
he relies on, hey, pardon me for saying this, poor white trash, and it's just brutal and not it didn't provide the suspense and scares that
Hmm.
Carpenter created, and even some of his followers. Like I even thought four was pretty good. Five and six, ugh. But yeah, that was my take on zombie. You know.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with you on that because he doesn't. I think when he tries to humanize Myers, and that's the whole point, is he's not,
Hmm.
And so I mean, when you watch Carpenter, it's not even that Michael Myers is a thing. I mean, that's the name of the entity if we're going to even give him that, But in there is no real rhyme or reason for why Michael does what he does in the original stuff, and then for them to try
Hmm.
and imprint some sort of morality to it and to give it some sort of excuse in a way, I think kind of cheapens the Michael Myers idea. But I also believe that if just like with Seasons of the Witches, if this was just a Rob Zombie slasher movie, or however you want to put it, serial killer movie, and it was another character, and the killer's name was something other than Michael Myers, that people would celebrate it and would love it as for what it is. But the second you try and put it within the same framework as Carpenter's stuff, I just think I think it just fumbles the ball, which is why I also think that the 2018 reboot, or however you want to call it, the sequel that ignores everything else, does so well,
Yeah.
is because they re-embrace the idea of Michael Myers just being pure evil. So,
Well, I thought the second two just fell apart.
oh yeah, the second two, I no, I don't
Yeah.
even think about it. But that 2018 one was I thought it was a fine addition. And then they got greedy, and then they fumbled the ball again, trying to do whatever nonsense they
David
were trying
Gordon
to do.
Green is too preachy. He also did in the Exorcist reboot he tried to do.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I'm not even sure I saw the reboot for Exorcist.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But anyway,
um,
those are my thoughts on the Halloween franchise.
there you go. Very good. I mean, all three of them are beloved, so everybody's got some opinion on each one. So I always just like picking. When we started, it was always Jason versus Michael, because to me those are the
Yeah.
two. But like every other person would be like, well, I would pick Freddie if you had him on the list. And so I
Actually, he'd be
always,
my number two.
so I throw Freddie on there. We started doing Freddie after a few interviews because it was like, yeah, it makes sense. Let's have the Trinity. And those guys, the Trinity of the late 70s, early 80s, and those guys are kind of
Yeah,
without
they are.
those three, we don't have what we have today. I mean, it's really that simple. So, um, next up, do you have a favorite cryptid or creature, movies or books or anything? Or in real life,
Uh,
maybe you have a story you want to tell us. Maybe you run into a goat man in Kentucky. You can let us know.
I for a monsters, is that
Yeah.
what you're asking me?
Yeah, any kind of
Uh,
thing. Anything like
uh,
that.
well, you mentioned a thing which is, I think, one of the best monsters ever created because you can't identify it initially, and
Yeah.
then when it becomes a monster, it is a monster. Um, that kind of springboarded into me about writing. I remember writing a short story about an evil, deformed witch that roams eastern Oklahoma,
Well, that's
and she
cool.
slices up people with her long, sharp fingernails. And this was based on a campfire story that my cousin told us when we were at our grandparents' house in Stillwell, Oklahoma.
Oh,
We were
very
all
cool.
kids. It always stuck with me, and I wrote it. It's called
That's
Slish
awesome.
Slash. Yeah,
What's it called again? I'm sorry.
Slish Slash.
Very cool. I like that. Yeah, it's nothing
Mhm.
better than those old school scary stories that family members would tell us when we were very young and
Mhm.
impressionable, and how they stick with us. And then we're able to, when you get a little bit older, maybe a little more skilled with the storytelling aspect yourself, and you can really deep dive in there and flesh out the tale. But you always get that. You can always tell. You can see that vein of original fear that the writer might have experienced when he heard the tale the first time.
And for another monster, I will go with Pumpkinhead. I thought that one was amazing.
Yeah, that's those are fun. I love a good creature outside the box,
Hmm.
um, and that's
And
a
Pumpkinhead
fun
was
one.
one of them.
Yeah, for sure. The 80s had some great ones. I mean, we had some really fun movies and monsters in the 80s that I every once in a while you can see them try to replicate it, but then they get kind of bogged down in the special effects. When in the old days, it felt like they were a little more story oriented, a little more, you know,
Frankly,
they let the viewer or the reader's imagination kind of help
yes.
build the character instead of giving us a full, you know, shining a light completely on it as they do today, often because they do the CGI or whatever they're doing. So,
Uh-huh.
uh, which is kind of why the prequel for the thing, which came out in like I think 2011, I do enjoy the movie. I think it's a smart idea, but it does seem to fall apart a little bit when we get the monster up close with some of their CGI choices and stuff.
Yeah, I never saw it, but I need to take it in sometime.
It's fun simply because if you line them up, it's perfect. You know, because it's supposed to be what happened to the Norwegians. So you watch it and then it ends and it picks up the original thing picks up exactly. I mean, you could see it. It's perfectly spliced together. And but you know, it's not a perfect movie, of course. But um, something about the original thing is just it always surprises me, you know, when you hear the reports about how poorly it did, because I just don't understand how it would do poorly. I don't get that. Um,
Well, that was a busy year in cinema. You had Star Trek 2 out,
yeah,
Poltergeist, and E.T. And it was just a crowded summer.
yeah. Not only that, crowded with science fiction, and so if people were thinking of this as more of a science fiction movie than a horror movie, which I can tell you, I know for a fact my father did. My father hated horror movies,
Hmm.
terrified, would not watch them. If it said it was a horror movie, he would ignore it or, you know, disparage it.
Real
The
quick, when I sell my books, I go to horror conventions a lot.
right?
And my cosplay is Dr. Loomis because
Oh,
I
well,
think
that's awesome,
I
right?
look
That's
like
very
him.
cool.
For years, I tried to get Michael Myers mask, and then I realized about 5, 6 years ago, I look like Dr. Loomis. I don't need a
Yeah,
mask,
right?
just a trench coat and a gun,
Yeah,
and he's here.
there you go. Right?
Mm.
And then well, let's pivot to that. What's do you prefer the original? What did you think of Michael McDowell's version of it in the
Didn't care for it too
yeah.
much. Yeah,
Yeah, I felt like he was too and maybe it's because we got to see him at the beginning, right? So we got to see him connect with Michael on a human level, and then he's
yeah,
trying to get him, you know, trying to fix him. But Donald Pleasance was like, F this, man. This kid's evil. Get rid of it. Don't let him out.
yeah.
And then when he gets out, we got to kill him. So I
And
think that was a
he
fun
didn't
thing.
want to make a buck off of it either, like the Malcolm
Yes, right.
McDowell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Which I think that was kind of a funny little nod because you know in the day that that was made and today most likely that's what would happen. Actually, you know what, that's a callback to Silence of the Lambs, right? Because the doctor that had Hannibal Lecter was trying to make a buck off of Hannibal Lecter until he
yeah,
got
that's true.
humiliated. So I it's funny how all of those movies and books they always shine a light on the psychiatrist in charge and he's always a dirtbag. So I don't know if that what that tells us, but something to think about. um is there a book or an author or maybe a series that you would attribute to why you like to write or the things you do write?
I'd have to say I have about 3 or 4 influences. An early one was Ray Bradbury. Um, I read Fahrenheit 451 as a kid, and I
Hmm.
teach it now as a teacher. And it just always stuck with me about how a society just stopped reading. It wasn't outlawed, people just stopped because of the technology. Another one is Richard Matheson, Hell House, Duel, and oh God, I can't think of it all of a sudden. The I Am Legend,
Hmm.
those were just fantastic novels that drug me in to it. And I would say another one is Dan Simmons, who unfortunately passed recently.
Yeah.
You familiar with him at all?
Oh, for sure. What's your favorite Simmons?
Probably Carrion Comfort
Okay.
and
Are you a fan of vampires?
yes, I
Okay.
am.
Very cool.
Drood. In fact, the very first book I read by him was called Children of the Night, which
Hmm.
was a sequel to Summer of Night, which is, I would say that's my close second. That was such a good book.
I enjoyed The Terror, although it is
Yeah.
long. So you really, it's a commitment. But I
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff I like to read, that kind of old school historical kind of thing. And I like their idea, his
And that's
idea
what,
of the whole thing.
yeah, I had a lot of inspiration on one of my books here. So it's
Oh, very cool.
yeah,
Um, Matherson, I'm a big fan of his TV and movies. The stuff he
yes.
did the screenwriting for. And then I'm hot or cold on his books and stuff, but he's a great writer. And some of the things that have influenced me are he touched in some manner, either as an inspiration or he did the screenplay or rewrote some of the stuff. I grew up as a Vincent Price mega
Yeah.
fan, so a
He
lot
did
of the stuff.
a
Yeah.
lot of Twilight Zones, and they had a
Oh,
big
for sure.
impact on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of us are influenced by those Twilight Zones because it used to be you could see 'em. I'm sure you can stream them somewhere now, but in the old days they
Oh,
were
yeah.
always on the free TV, and we only had three channels or whatever back in the day.
Well, they're on the UHF channels usually,
Yeah,
but
right. And you would get the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the
yeah,
Twilight Zone. If you're lucky, maybe some Night Gallery. That was always fun.
those were good too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all
Yeah,
of
I
those.
think that's the one good thing with streaming is I didn't see all the night galleries until about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The only thing I don't like is that sometimes streaming can get restrictive if they feel
Yeah,
like there was some questionable something. Instead of allowing us to see it and make our own opinions about it, they cut it out, and so then you got to go find the physical media again. But yeah, for sure, on some of this cool stuff, I think they just put the Creep shows on Prime, so I'm excited to dive
it's
back
Tales
into
from the
all that.
Crypt, I thought.
Oh yeah, 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 that's what it is. Tales
Oh
of the
no, you're
Crypt.
talking about Prime.
Yeah.
Prime.
No, but you're
Yeah.
right though. It is Tales from the Crypt, I think, that they threw up there. So, so that's even, that's cool. Those are all those old shows that were hard for us to get our hands on growing up, or maybe in our teens and stuff. It's cool to be able to just go in there and find it. And you said the first one you said, I'm sorry, it was a big name, and now I'm blanking on it. The first
Ray
person,
Bradbury.
yeah, Bradbury. What's your favorite Bradbury?
Fahrenheit 451,
It
although I've
is that
also
one?
read,
Okay, I wasn't sure
yeah,
if you were just telling me about because
Something
that.
Wicked. Yeah, Something
Yeah,
Wicked This Way Comes is my second favorite, and The Martian Chronicles is my third.
very cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, can you go wrong? Really, it's just degrees of how awesome everything is, and you kind of shift
Yeah.
it around. I do a lot of stuff with Patrick C. Harrison III, and he is a huge Bradbury fan. Him and Judith Sonnet did a paperback inspired by Bradbury tales, and they kind of both did like five tales each, and it's like a collection of Bradbury stuff, and I think that's really cool. So, um,
And I will say, yeah, I'm a King fan, but I like to go to my other influences. And I will say my favorite King book is Pet Cemetery. It
yeah,
just scared the living crap out of me when I was reading it, and I can't remember if it was high school or early college, but anyway,
I want to say that might be, in my opinion, it's one of his scariest books. I mean,
yeah.
he tapped something in that one that as a child, when I read it, it scared the dickens out of me. And knowing now, if I read it, how I would flip and still be terrified because of what happens to Gabe and all
Hmm.
that. Oh, Gage, is it Gage? I can't remember the
Gage,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah, Gage. And of course, anything that happens to a cat, you're gonna be upset about. So, no matter your age. So.
And that's the biggest horror, losing a child. I can't imagine that pain.
Yeah, yeah, it would be terrifying to have to go through all that. And then and does that make you think though, if you had that at your fingertips, if you had already seen it sort of work with the cat resurrecting it, and you
Hmm.
did lose your child, would you be so grief stricken that you would try and do it again, or would you allow nature to take its course? And that's one of those things I think all of us would have to struggle with if the situation was presented to us.
Yeah.
So really, in the end, the villain is the guy that told him how to do it. So I can't remember his
Yeah.
name right now, but the Herman Munster character in the movie. So
Judd, I think.
yeah, I think so. And it's been so long, I cannot remember the last time. Dawn and I are actually going to read it this year. That's what we normally do on this channel is we read old stuff and we discuss why we think it was influential or important
Hmm.
to horror itself. And we had discussed we don't normally do King, but we've done The Shining, and we're going to talk about Pet Cemetery later this year. So, and I was excited to get back into it because it's probably been 25, 30 years since I read it.
Hmm.
And it was one of those that impacted me as a youth. And I know that it's one that I have a feeling I'll go back to it and find so many cool things that I've forgotten about. So I'm excited to dive back into it. But so what is your thoughts on I Am Legend?
I call it the second greatest vampire novel ever. And kind of along with Summer of Night, the Dan Simmons book I mentioned,
Hmm.
it looks at vampirism from a completely medical, perspective
Yeah.
because, he's trying to find a cure for it. And that's what happens in Summer of Night. The woman, she discovers this kid or a baby that has an extra organ that can transfer any blood type to its own blood type. And she thinks it could be a way to save people's lives, and she's medical experiment.
Hmm.
So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's one of the few times in a book where they humanize the vampire too,
Yeah,
where he really goes out of his way to show us that those people, that society, since it's actually everybody but the main character, have kind of band together, not out of um, sort of out of community, but also out of pure fear of the character. Like
yeah,
they're terrified of him, and so they band together to try and stop him and end him, because he is the oddity, not them anymore.
right.
Um, are you a big movie person?
Yeah, I'm a big movie person, but I still am a reader. And I
Right.
think,
No, no, for sure.
yeah.
But my next question ties in with that. What do you think of the three movies that they've produced for I Am Legend? Have you
I
seen
don't
all
think
three of
any of
them, or do
I have
you?
seen, I believe I've seen two of them, the Omega Man
Mhm.
and the one they did about 20 years ago with
With
Will
Will Smith?
Smith.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
I Am Legend, and the other
Mhm.
one, of course, is Last Man on Earth, which is a Vincent
Okay.
Price movie.
Okay. That's the one I haven't seen. Um, that's one of those, I don't think any movie's done it justice.
Oddly enough, the Vincent Price one comes close, but they don't really treat it like vampires as much as they do. I don't know. It almost feels like zombies, but um, but you get more of the science and more of the doctor trying to cure them
Yeah.
in the Vincent Price one. You sort of get it in Will Smith's, but those creatures are less human, less I don't want to say it, well, less intelligent. They're less they're more beasts than they are what
Hmm.
the book gave us. And of course, Omega Man is just batshit crazy because it's just nothing. It's just
Yeah.
70s. It's beautiful. It's a great movie for how wacky and crazy it is, but it's not anything to do with I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, Omega Man is one of the movies that, as a young kid, I saw. My dad loved it. He showed it to me, and it imprinted on me early on. And I don't want to ruin it, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
say spoiler, so that you guys can mute it if you haven't seen Omega Man. But he dies at the end. So I that was like the first movie I ever saw where like there wasn't a happy ending. The main character dies, the hero dies, and that imprinted on me early on, and I think it has influenced the way I write stories
Well,
and do things.
that's the way the book ends too. He dies.
Sure, sure, of course. But at the time, I'd never read the book. I had only seen, I think I saw Omega Man when I
Oh,
was like
okay.
6 or 7. So I was very young when my dad showed it to me. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, no. And again, the book, it does a great job of doing that too. But he does it more, well, I guess they're both sacrifices in a way. So, um, but yeah, no, it's a great movie if you want pure 70s camp that has absolutely nothing to do with I mean, it is
Mhm.
the name of the
Yeah.
guy and there's a apocalypse and that's about it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's got some funny crazy stuff in it. So um so speaking of books, we are talking because of a great book festival coming up, Texas Horror Lit Fest. It's going to be and I cannot believe it's only 2 weeks away, June 27th, 28th. And we're going to have a bunch of fun writers that are going to do horror, science fiction, and fantasy. And you have some of your books that you can show us that we could kind of see what you have at the table.
Right. This is, whoops. Do you hear what I hear? It's the first book in my series.
Okay.
And it's not about Christmas.
Right. Yeah. Well,
The
I can
boy,
see that ain't Santa Claus behind that kid. So
yeah, that's
I
not Santa
definitely could tell.
Claus.
Yeah.
And the premise is, well, this boy is in a tragic car wreck and he goes blind and he also loses his mom, his dad, and his twin brother. So he has to go live with his aunt and uncle and his cousin. And I have another, and you see a little thing here in the background, and that's what is scaring him. But remember, he's afraid of what he can hear in the dark. He's not afraid of the dark, is he?
Right. Of course.
Yeah. And so that was a big thing using the other senses. Now, what he hears is an ancient, sinister evil that stirred part of the Nazi Holocaust. And I have another character who survived the Holocaust as a little boy. He's now an old man and a rabbi named Nathan, and he's been trying to find this thing to stop it because he may have the secret to do so. And he's close, but he has to find this boy first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
So,
interesting. I love
yeah.
a good historical influenced horror
Mhm.
story. And
Well,
so,
that was a lot of Dan Simmons inspiration, and I did a lot of research on it too, on people who are blind. Believe it or not, when the Daredevil series came out on Netflix, the original one,
mhm.
when it came out, I started to get more into the idea. Originally, it was just a short story about a firefighter who lost his vision in the line of duty and what he was going to do to come back and what his dreams were like. When a blind person when they go blind, uh, they can see in their dreams for about 5 years. After that, it goes black, and their dreams are only what they can hear, what they can smell, taste, and feel. And if someone is born blind, well, that's all their dreams are. And that always kind of startled me when I did that research.
Yeah, that would be very
Mhm.
I don't want to say off-putting. That's not the word I'm thinking of, but
Mhm.
to go from being able to see to being blind and then having your dreams slowly fade away, the visions of your dreams, it'd be
Mhm.
unsettling. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, I'm a huge Daredevil fan. Oddly enough, I was reading Daredevil on the plane all day today. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge Matt Murdock fan. Um,
Yeah. And anyway, that kind of leads into my next book here, The Demon Inside Me. This is my bestseller. It's book 2 in the Blind Faith series. Huh. Anyway, this boy, Jeffrey, is going through a demonic possession. This one is unique though, because it is completely from the point of view of this boy going through the possession. It's written in the first person. What's going on in his mind as the demon enters in, tries to take over, manipulates him, makes him act out, uh, warp reality.
mhm.
How does he perceive the outside world? And eventually he goes into this never-ending nightmare that he can't seem to escape from. Sorry, I got a mosquito in here.
They're the
Damn,
worst.
damn
They are the
vampire.
worst. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start slapping around because we have one buzzing around too. So,
yeah. But anyway, and I never heard of that perspective, and I had to use
mhm.
pure imagination. And he's helped by a priest who's blind, and his name happens to be Father Matthew.
Okay,
Again, a little tip of uh, an Easter egg towards um, Daredevil.
that's very
This
cool.
is the third book in the series. My best friend is a demon, and the boy who was possessed. Well, this is his sister, Elise,
Hmm.
and she's really weird and eclectic. Everyone compares her to Wednesday Addams.
Okay,
And so she's always playing practical jokes and being really weird and cynical. And so she's alienated a lot of people and doesn't have a whole lot of friends. Well, she made a friend with the demon. It's actually, she thought it was a ghost and that wants her to act out. And why shouldn't she do it? Well, it's her best friend after all.
right.
So that's the third one in the series. And by the way, the characters from Do You Hear What I Hear come with the characters in The Demon Inside Me. The boy who goes blind, Jeffrey is his cousin. They're
Okay,
kind of,
so they kind of all tie together. You have
yeah.
a nice. Yeah, I love when you do stuff like when writers do that with their stories. Kind of have characters intertwined with
Mhm.
all three of the
And
books
I
or however.
plan to have two more books on that one.
Okay.
This one is Wonderful and Terrifying Nightmares. This is a collection of short stories I have written over the years.
Oh, very cool. I love the cover.
Yes. Oh, by the way, my cover designer is awesome. His name is Derek. He lives in Oklahoma too. And he kind of used the goosebumps
Hmm.
type of a thing you can see on the lettering there.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of my favorites in here, I did put the Slush Slash story in here.
Okay, cool.
And I also put in the one of my favorites about a scarecrow that's really evil and going after this little boy because it's on his grandparents' farm. I got another one about a haunted jack-o'-lantern and a boy. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff coming of age.
Oh, that's
And
fun though.
I do have another one, and it actually ties in with the next novel in the Blind Faith series. And it's a book. It was a story I wrote back in 1985, never got it published. And what I did was, it was about these kids who were vampires. I wrote this before the Lost Boys came out
Oh
about two
yeah.
years before that. But like I said, I never got it published. And a few years ago, I rewrote it, especially after listening to an Alice Cooper song called Dangerous Tonight. And I changed the title to Dangerous Tonight. It's about a 14-year-old boy who is tempted because his home life is shit. And he meets this other friend of his that disappeared. And it turns out he's the leader of a brood
Hmm.
and it entices him. I mean, he wants to find acceptance and love, I guess you could say, and
Right.
camaraderie. His step siblings hate him, so why not join him? And then he goes and gets revenge. And I'm fleshing out this character as an anti-hero in the new novel I've been working on for a while. And I do have another one coming out here soon, but it's more of a supernatural thriller, and it actually takes place in the mid 2000s when I originally wrote it. I almost got it published traditionally, but then that publishing company was taken over by another publishing company and they canceled all new projects. It's
Yeah.
about a guy who does death notices for the police. And the reason is because not every time, but quite often, the spirit of the deceased will come into him. And so he serves as a conduit so that they can tell the person, like a husband or a wife or, a parent, do some little unfinished business between the two. And then the spirit goes away. Now, the living don't have a conscious memory of it, but they feel better after the experience. It's
Yeah.
like the guilt goes away.
That's cool.
And he does this. He's had this ability for a long time, and he found it by accident. His own little brother died, and he feels responsible. And his little brother came into him to say goodbye to mom and dad, but he didn't say goodbye to him. And this cop, he can't communicate with them. He's only a conduit, not a communicator. And he also feels cheated because he was supposed to get married with this girl in college, and she was killed in a convenience store robbery. And the same thing happened. She came into him, but he couldn't communicate. So, and now he's trying to stop a serial killer, and he's trying to find clues from all these. And he's built up this wall. No one knows about this, and so he finally has to confide in some people to stop that killer.
That sounds interesting. I like those kind of stories. Little bit of supernatural, little bit of serial killer or whatever. Those are always fun to kind of to flesh through and be on the journey of the solving of the mystery. So those are always cool. Um, our time is running out. I'm getting a little flashy thing up at the top of my screen to make sure
All
that we
right.
don't just cut off. So I want to go over it again. Texas Horror Lit Fest, June 27th, 28th. It's 10 to 6 both days. It's a free event, but the Irving Convention Center, where it's going to be, does charge for parking. We are doing tickets, and below us in the description, you'll see a link for Eventbrite. Click on that, let us know you're coming, and you can use that ticket for an entry in a raffle. So there'll be a ton of cool free stuff from the different authors and the event planners. So come out and see us. Like I said, in 2 weeks. That's amazing. That just blows my mind that we're already here.
And I'm glad they
And
invited an Oklahoma author like me.
yeah, and that's the cool thing about this event because you're going to be able to run into authors from all over the states. We're going to have people coming from Massachusetts, Tulsa, Arizona. I know we have some people coming from Arkansas, and of course, Texas is so big. you're going to get to see a bunch of authors you don't normally see in the DFW area. We've got guys coming up from Houston and Austin and San Antonio, and also a couple other little towns spattered throughout the state. So swing by, meet some new authors, visit with some of your favorites, and get some new books. Hopefully, we'll see everybody there.
I can't wait to be there myself.
Take it easy.
Thank you.